Hello, my name is Logan and I'm your host, the Mighty Pirate. In today's video, we're going to discuss super heavies. My sources for today's video are Technical Readout, Project Omega, and Sarna.net. So there are 6 super heavy Battlemechs, 2 of which are only partially canon, and I'll explain more in a moment. The 6 mechs are Spider Mech, Matar, Omega, Orca, Poseidon, and the Ares. In an effort to organize these mechs, I'm going to start with the Spider Mech, and the reasons why I do not believe it is canon and shouldn't be really considered as an official super heavy battle mech. First reason being is that it has technology that is unique specifically to this vehicle. It has 2 plasma PPCs, which are otherwise unknown outside of the game which it is in. Mech Assault 2 Lone Wolf, and it's one of the bosses. It also has a pair of LRM 70s and is immune to all damage except for the kneecap. So I'm going to just kind of write this mech off. The Spider Mech is also a hexapod that is completely autonomous. If the Spider Mech were canon, it would have been made in the year 2450, making it way ahead of its time. So continuing our super heavy timeline, we have the Matar. In 2775, as Alexander Kerensky's forces were tightening the noose around Armistice Empire, weapons development became increasingly frantic in hopes of finding a miracle weapon to turn the tides of war. Most well known of these is the Matar, commonly referred to as Armistice Folly. In an attempt to create a battle mech able to withstand an entire company carrying devastating firepower and counters to all perceived threats, the Matar was unfortunately doomed to never see production when its leg actuators proved incapable of moving the massive machine. After Armistice's execution of the design staff for treacherous incompetence, the project was cancelled. The project lead, Reichen Armis, attempted to take his work into exile and was apprehended by Kerensky's troop in an attempt to flee Terra. Even though the Matar had earned a reputation as a dead-end project, instigated by a madman's dying regime, the Matar would return to terrorize the inner sphere with the clans, reborn as the Smoke Jaguar's Stone Rhino. With the intended role of static defense, the Matar was built around long-range firepower, toting a pair of Gauss rifles in the side torso, supplemented by dorsal-mounted ER large lasers. To deal with faster units, the Matar was ill-suited to fight. A pair of large pulse lasers were equipped, one in each arm. A simple pivot of the torso would enable the pilot to hit targets even directly behind him with one of the arm lasers, both capable of dealing crippling hits to the lighter assets. When coupled with rear-mounted medium pulse lasers, there was no true safe angle from which to attack a Matar. Reportedly, at Stefan Armis's personal insistence, the Matar carries a pair of flamers to roast opposing infantry alive. To guard against advanced munitions that would threaten the Matar from long range, a Guardian ECM was installed in one of its legs. A super heavy would not be attempted again until 3076 with the Omega. Manufactured in a small number by Skobel Mechworks from their facilities in Russia region of Terra prior to the fall of the Word of Blake. The Omega represented the first truly veritable super heavy battle mech design to appear on the battlefield. Almost 30 of the huge battle mech were produced by Skobel prior to the super heavy manufacturing wing of their Russian facility being destroyed during Operation Scour. The bulk of these mechs were deployed in and around the Devil's Peak command post, used for Precentor, Martel, Cameron, St. James' final stand, but some Omegas saw service around Hilton Head and in Cairo. Although the concept of a super heavy mech had already been explored by their Terran hegemony centuries before, it wasn't until the Word of Blake overcame the problems associated with the massive design that the Omega became viable. Featuring an endosteel skeleton larger and bulkier than anything seen before, oversized actuators and a new monomer system that involved both large fiber bundles than larger fiber bundles than standard and the use of hybrid monomers. The Blakeists were able to overcome a number of flaws discovered by those who had explored the super heavy mech concept in the past. The resulting internal structure was far larger than would be viable for any conventional battle mech, but in the case of the Omega, resulted in a working super heavy design that stood half again as tall as the 100-ton king crab, from which the designers had evidently taken a number of cues. The Omega was powered by an extra light 300 engine, but other than the unusual internal structure, monomers and actuators featured relatively mundane armor, cockpit, and weapon systems. The weight and nature of the Omega as a super heavy design demanded the use of a heavy-duty gyro, but even with the added weight from the enhanced gyro, the Omega featured a spacious frame for fitting weapons and equipment into, and each Omega boasted an improved C3 computer wrapped in 27 tons of armor and with the arms and torso areas protected by Case 2. Each Omega was a rugged machine capable of weathering huge amounts of fire, and the combination of weapons made it capable of acting as a lethal defense unit, and even a serviceable anti-aircraft platform. However, as might be expected from such a huge mech, the Omega also proved slow and cumbersome, and all the prototypes produced by Shikobel are believed to have been destroyed in action. Each Omega mounted an Imperator Code Red LBX-10 autocannon in each arm, with an M7 Gauss rifle mounted in each of its 3 torso areas. The autocannon were supplied with 2 tons of ammunition, while a total of 10 tons of Gauss ammunition were distributed around the torso areas of the mech. The super heavy construction of the Omega made it the first mech capable of mounting an Intersphere Gauss standard rifle with ammunition and Case 2 in the center torso. Next in the timeline is the Orca, and it was originally constructed shortly before 3091. Its development occurred under such total secrecy that even an unfortunate delivery driver who slipped through the security due to a lapse and was caught filming a live fire test with his personal device was only released from custody 5 years later. The prototype was created haphazardly and thus includes some intrinsic flaws like the very difficult control. With suboptimal production standards, it was decided to mothball all prototypes in the still classified locations. While considered a failure, the multiple lessons learned from the Orca's development ultimately resulted in the successful creation of the Poseidon, the Republic's first production super heavy battle mech decades later. Although currently canon, the Orca was originally designed as an April Fool's joke, with tongue-in-cheek references to Clan Wolverine and publicized as Project Omega. Continuing on in the timeline, 3136 would see the development of the Poseidon. The Poseidon was a super heavy tripod class mech, originally produced in secret by the Republic of the Sphere. Designed with the know-how acquired through experimentation undertaken by the Republic during the early 31st century, the Poseidon's development was spurred on by the events of Grey Monday. Its development, along with other secret weapons, was put under the codename Rhodes Project. 2 of the initial prototypes of the Poseidon saw combat during the Senate's rebellion in 3135 on Terra. The Poseidon's prototypes were able to engage rebel forces at their Siberian proving grounds in Asia and fend them off. The engagements helped to work out the development problems in the mech, leading to the V2 design. The Poseidon was the basis for what would become the Ares Omni Super Heavy Tripod. The mech would be placed into production at the then unknown factory on Devil's Rock called Rhodes Foundry. It would be deployed during the Fortress Republic time period to the Republic's most reliable regiments, only to be deployed in defensive roles as of 3145. Originally based loosely on the Orca Super Heavy Battle Mech, the Poseidon was the first of its kind in modern times in using its 3 legs instead of the commonly found bipedal or quad designs, commonly known as a super heavy tripod, or because of its immense size as a colossal. The Poseidon's method of locomotion gains advantage over more commonly used ones, allowing it to change direction without losing speed. Faster than many of its class size, its powerful Plasma Star 370 rated extra light engine and sturdy Indo-steel construction allowed the mech to move and carry a ponderous amount of weaponry. Its hull is protected by 24 tons of Maximilian 320 standard armor, allowing it to absorb immense amounts of damage before succumbing to enemy fire. The 3-man cockpit used in the super heavy tripod design allows the mech to act as a command unit and to be able to target multiple enemies with less of a penalty. This is due to the Poseidon's command responsibilities being split between a dedicated pilot, gunner, and tactician/engineer. Finally, in our super heavy timeline is the Ares. The Ares is a super heavy class tripod omni-mech, which was first produced by the Republic of the Sphere. Produced in secret as part of the Republic's Rhodes project, the Ares was based on the development of the Poseidon super heavy tripod. The mech was conceived as an omni-mech to allow it to be easier for its maintenance crew to service it and allow it to transport battle armor support elements. The mech's development began as the Poseidon prototypes finished their trial runs in 3135. The Ares' appearance is due in part to the development cycle, which took place at nearly the same time as that of the Poseidon. The Ares' origins were virtually unknown during its initial deployment within the Republic Stones Brigade and units stationed at its factory on Devil's Rock during the 3140s. The Ares have been deployed to various worlds neighboring the Republic in covert raids and recon missions as part of the nation's effort to keep potential invaders off guard. Production of the mech and its sister design, the Poseidon, continued on Devil's Rock at the Rhodes Foundry. By 3145, the location of the factory had become a frontline world in danger of falling to a potential clan wolf invasion. Additional production was planned for Mars, with facilities on Devil's Rock being set to explode should invading forces set foot within the facilities. That will conclude my video on super heavies. Thanks so much for watching, guys. In the description, I'm going to put some links to some of the sources that I cited, as well as some fun projects that people worked on related to super heavies. I'm also going to be posting links to my Instagram if you want to see some of my painted minis, and I'm going to be finally setting up a Patreon for those of you who are interested in donating to that. Thanks for watching again, guys. Have a great week.